Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Megan Carter and I'm the VP of Sales for Toben Food by Design. And I am so excited to welcome you to our craft beer tasting and dining experience. Before we get started, just a friendly reminder to please preheat your oven to 375 so we are all ready to jump in. For those of you new to Toben, welcome and thank you. We are a full-service catering company that was formed right here in Toronto in 2005. We specialize in fresh, local artisan cuisine, custom menus, and full-service event management for private and corporate clientele. Back in 2018, we found and built our new home here at 150 Symes Road. And with that move came new neighbors. As everyone knows, meeting new neighbors can sometimes be a roll of the dice. But lucky for us, we soon learned that our new neighbors are one of a kind awesome. Junction Craft Brewery is filled with not only amazing beer, but with a passionate, positive, and incredibly hardworking team. They live all things beer and know how to have fun along the way. It was a natural collaboration right from the start, combining great food, great customer service, and great beer, and we've had the pleasure of working with them for the past few years. And it's that partnership that allows us to bring you this experience today. Over the next hour or so, we will take you through a culinary journey where you'll be tasting a custom menu that was designed to be paired with some familiar and some not so familiar craft beers. Please go ahead and open up your kits. I recommend that you take everything out and organize yourself in order of the courses and pairings. Our team will take you through every step of the way, every dish and every pairing, but in addition to this, we've included a menu card that outlines those courses and pairings for you. In just a moment, I'm going to send you over to Junction, where our culinary creator, Chef Toben Kochman, and beer master extraordinaire, Andrew Bartle, are ready to take you through this experience. At every course, Toben will show you how to rewarm, plate, and finish each menu item before handing it over to Andrew, who will speak to the selected beer pairing and all things craft beer. So just relax, listen, eat, drink, and enjoy along the way. And don't be too concerned with chugging down your beer or getting behind, because thanks to the magic of technology, a quick pause will catch you right back up to speed and allow you to enjoy this experience at your leisure. So that's it for me. I just want to thank you once more for joining us, and I'm going to send you over to Toben, who will start your culinary adventure. Thank you.
Before we get started, let's go ahead and pop our amazing beef cheek and French onion soup croquettes in the oven, and then we're going to do a proper introduction. So let's do that now. So, while that's warming up, I'd love to properly introduce myself. I'm Chef Toben Kochman. I'm the executive chef and owner of Toben Food by Design, as Megan had said earlier. We're so excited to bring you this amazing, crafted, artisanal, culinary beer and tasting experience here from Junction Craft Brewery. We've gone ahead and created an amazing menu for you guys, all inspired by the wonderful flavors and subtleties of the beer. So I'm just gonna walk you through the menu, and then we're gonna go ahead and plate up the first course. While it's warming up, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the menu and what our inspiration was. So for me, when I'm thinking about beer, I'm thinking about things that have a lot of flavor, that are salty, that are sweet, that have incredible textures, that really complement all the subtle notes that we have in the beer. So, what's on the menu tonight for this amazing craft beer experience? The first course is these crispy, yummy, gooey braised beef and French onion soup croquettes. So we basically taken the best flavors from your French onion soup, like the beef and the salty cheese and the sweet onions, and we've braised them all down and then turn them into this amazing, crunchy, fried croquette. On the side of that is going to be this very light, lemony, tangy aioli. I think our croquettes are just about ready, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull them out of the oven, and I'm gonna go and show you how to plate up the first course. It's actually really simple. One moment. So here we have our croquettes. We've gone ahead and actually given you 2 per person. You just want to be careful. They're really hot. They hold a lot of heat once they first come out of the oven. So you just want to be careful, especially once you bite into them. You'll notice a lot of steam. So maybe give them a moment or 2 to cool before you actually break into them. But in the meantime, I'm just going to show you how to plate it up. So on the side, as you can see, we've given you the amazing, tangy, rich, slightly peppery horseradish aioli. You can just take it and choose your favorite plate, and you just take it and make a nice dollop of it just here and kind of smear it all over your plate. So give it a nice little smear, and then go ahead, leave that to the side. Here we have our croquettes. You just want to be careful even when you're handling them because they are quite hot. And we're just going to go and place them right on top of the bed of the aioli. And these are obviously, of course, for sharing. So we have 2 per person. And there you have it. So I just want to go ahead and show you, when you break into them, you can see that these are really rich and creamy and beautiful. They have all that incredible braised meat. We've gone ahead and actually used the PIVO Czech lager to cook the beef itself. It has all these rich, salty notes from the cheese. I think you guys are really gonna love it. It's an amazing way to start this craft beer experience. We're so excited to bring them to you. Please, again, be careful because they will be quite warm. And you know what? Before I turn you over to Andrew, I would love to just have you guys put both the shrimp and the fried rice there. You'll see them. They're in 2 separate containers. Put them in the oven. They'll take about 7 or 8 minutes to fully heat through. Make sure you remove the lid, of course. And now I'm going to turn you over to Andrew. And here's Andrew, ready to crack his first beer.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Toben.
Yeah, of course.
Here we go. So first, we have our Czech-style dark lager. We call it TMAVÉ PIVO. TMAVÉ just means dark, PIVO, beer. It's pretty simple. Don't be afraid of pouring beer with foam. Foam is good. Foam is going to protect your beer the longer you drink it. It's actually keeping all the oxygen out, which is going to keep your aroma in. So if you've never had a beer tasting, one of the best things to do is actually pour your glass, get lots of foam. Again, don't be afraid of it. Foam is beer, beer is foam. First thing you're going to see is that you're actually, admiring a beer when you're tasting a beer. It's the first thing you see. A good-looking beer. No one wants to see a beer that looks flat and flabby. It just doesn't look that good. Something like this, nice dense head, looks really good. First thing you really want to do after that is actually just get a smell of it. That's the first thing that's going to flash off. You're going to see, all that CO2 that's coming out of these bubbles, that's giving you that aroma. That's going to give you your first senses. Out of beer, the most important thing that you actually taste is actually through your nose. So you're going to smell that first before you dive in. First thing, again, after that, you just want to take a sip. Just wet your palate, make sure it looks really good all around your mouth, start getting some flavors, then take another sip just to be sure. There we go. So, back to the beer. We have this Czech-style dark lager, which I was very inspired by. I took a trip to the Czech Republic, got to visit a lot of really great breweries. The one I was really enthralled by was Brewery Ufleku. So it's like this little village of little pubs and taverns within this brewery, but all they actually brew is this Czech-style dark lager. It just kind of blew me away that this is what had this really great attraction to people that would come and only want to drink this style of beer from this brewery. And they never deviated from that at all. So taking that kind of inspiration and getting to see other places throughout the Czech Republic, we ended up importing some floor malted Pilsner. Again, the Czech Republic are known for Pilsners, but then we have this nice dark lager. So we always also use a really nice roasty malt that we use in it to kind of give that color. But what you should always taste in a Czech style beer is that Pilsner malt needs to come first. Floor malting is a little more rustic, so you're gonna get, but you still need to get that graininess, that bread that comes behind it. It shouldn't taste like a stout. It shouldn't taste like a coffee. You just want a little bit of that nuttiness and caramel to come from it. So what we actually end up doing is taking the dark malts and throwing it on top of our lauter. So we're only getting color, but we're not getting all of that astringent flavor that you normally would from a dark roasted malt. So again, from the aroma, you're just gonna get that nice lager sulfur. You're gonna get a lot of that breadiness from the Pilsner malt. You're gonna get a little nuttiness, a little caramel from the dark malts. But ultimately, if you were drinking this in like a closed cup where you couldn't see it, you should be kind of deceived by it. Again, with this really nice carbonation, you should get that nice fluffy head, but it's gonna give you that kind of that feeling that it's just nice, soft carbonation. It's not over astringent, it's not over carbonic, so it's just kind of just really light on your tongue. It pairs so well with rich foods. It's just a really nice thing. Again, you're in the Czech Republic, it's all goulash, really, really roasted meats. It's a great pairing. So my name's Andrew Bartle. I'm the head of production here at Junction Craft Brewery. I've been here for almost a year now. Again, my past in brewing, I've been in the brewing scene since 2008, working around breweries throughout Ontario. Have been able to kind of help start some, build some breweries, took a trip to the East Coast to help build a brewery, and now I find myself back here. So Junction Brewery started in 2011. Used to be on Kawartha Avenue. Here in 2017, we moved over here to 150 Signs Road to our Destructor location. So the building was a 1933 Art Deco building. It actually used to be an incinerator, hence why it's got the name The Destructor. When that was finally decommissioned, it later got purposed in the 90s for raves, and then finally taken over by us in 2017 to become a brewery. And right across the street, we have Toben.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I'm going to go ahead and grab the duck confit fried rice with the Korean barbecue shrimp from the oven. Just give me a moment, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do a really exciting plating and see what it's all about. Okay, so we all have our Korean barbecue shrimp and duck confit fried rice that has come out of the oven. This is an amazing dish. It basically has all that umami, you know, the spiciness and the sweetness from the shrimp, as well as, you know, that amazing salty and fermented flavor from the duck confit and the kimchi. It's got a little crisp on it. I just love this dish. I feel like it really hits all elements of your palate, and we're just gonna go ahead and plate it up. So you can either use a bowl or a plate, and remember that these are always 2 portions. So I'm gonna plate up half in one of the bowls, and it does make a great family style plating as well. So if you wanna do it that way and put it all together, please go ahead and do so. So we have the rice. You just want to lightly mix it up just to sort of mix through that crispy top, making sure that everything is really hot. And then we're going to go ahead and just take the rice and plate it into the bottom of our bowl. So we're just going to take it here, take half the rice, see all those beautiful shiitake mushrooms and the sweet carrots and crispy garlic and the greens. It's making my mouth water. It's so amazing. I really, really love this dish. So you have about half of the fried rice in the bottom here. And that's your foundation, that's your base. Then you have your glazed, amazing gochujang glazed shrimp. So these have Korean barbecue elements to them. There's gochujang, which is like a Korean red pepper paste. There's honey, which has the sweetness, and then some rice wine vinegar for a little bit of acidic balance. I love them. So you just want to take half of the shrimp, so 4 pieces, and just lay them right on top of the rice here, like that. Just get them all over. There we go. And then lastly, but certainly not least, we have this really crispy, refreshing, crunchy salad. We've used some seasonal radishes, these amazing watermelon radishes, as well as some kohlrabi in there that we've lightly pickled, and just for some freshness, some crunchy cucumber. We've dressed it with a very light miso vinaigrette for just a little bit of that saltiness to season the vegetables, and then some toasted black and white sesame seeds. So what we've done is actually we've put your vinaigrette right at the bottom of the container, so you can just stick the lid on like this and just give it a light shake, just to sort of make sure that the vinaigrette is well incorporated and coating lightly all the different vegetables. Kind of turn it upside down, swish it side to side. And then this is also 2 portions, so you're gonna take half of it for each bowl and just kind of make, you know, a nice little pile in the center of your bowl, just to make it look really pretty, really colorful, really bright, and sort of show off that shrimp a little bit as well, so don't cover everything. And that's about half there, and that's basically it. You know, we really wanted to pair something that had a lot of kind of big, robust, bold, spicy and salty elements with the crispy rice lager. The rice lager is going to cut through all the great spice in here. It's really clean, really crisp, and we just think it would make an amazing pairing. So we're really excited to present this dish. I'm now going to pass it back over to Andrew so he can speak more about all the amazing elements of the crispy rice lager. And so it's over to you, Andrew.
On to the next beer. So we have our crispy rice lager. Now, in fact, this is not a lager. We've actually used a Norwegian ale yeast, or a blend thereof. So this Norwegian ale yeast, Veik, or Quake, K-V-E-I-K, is a really amazing old world yeast that actually came dried on a ring. We started using this in recent years, which is kind of taking a really old world thing and using it in new world beers. Because we're getting ready for summer, you know, we really thought that making a rice lager was one of these really great things we can do, but we can also use this really old yeast, it ferments extremely warm and it becomes very expressive, but yet when it's all said and done, unlike the ales or your IPAs that are fermenting hot and warm, this actually has this very neutral kind of a aroma and presence to what this beer is. Much more like a lager than an ale. It doesn't have that sulfur character that you normally get from a lager, but you're not getting any of that fruit note. So it's really just kind of this really balanced, kind of expressive yeast that can do a lot of amazing things. So it's kind of fun really working with this to make something kind of a little new and old and blend it all together. Again, be sure to look at it. We got a little haze going on, nice fluffy dense head. You know, it's really important for a beer to have that. Again, take a smell. We're actually using some European Hallertau middle fruit hops, so you're gonna get that grass floral kind of note from it. You can get just a little bit of fruit, which is more from the hop than it is actually from the yeast itself. Again, take a sip. And again, this is really, really nice. You're gonna get a little bit of bitterness. It's gonna come back just a little more assertive than your average rice lager that you get from kind of your domestic beers. But again, it's there to kind of combat some spicy foods. It's there to kind of be moreish. You know, the craft beers drinker, the experience is kind of craving a little more than something that's super sweet. But I find it has this really nice balance of having just a little bit of bitterness, kind of to go around with that grassiness and just make a really nice, light, crushable beer. So it'd be really great if you could take your crispy cauliflower bites and throw them in the oven, and we'll go on a little brewery tour. Welcome to Junction Brewery. This is our brew house and where all the magic happens. We have a 25-hect brew house. We actually have 2 kettles, which help us get a lot more production out of the summer hours as we get ready for the busy season. So outside, if you come by our brewery, you can see that we have 2 grain silos outside, which we hold Canadian 2-row barley. That mixed along with some specialty grains, you can see from our super sacks behind us. We'll send that through a mill and into our grist case. A grist case is what's going to hold all of the milled barley before we actually mash it into our mash tun. This goes through a hydrator where we end up adding hot water and our grain together to make a grist, or our sweet wort, which is what will happen after it. So we're making a mash. What's happening here is we're getting enzymatic reaction. We're actually taking all the starch and we're turning it into sugar. All these sugars are what we're going to call wort, W-O-R-T. So this is the sugary liquid. It's like a sweet tea like that actually comes out of it. But this is where we're getting all the magic that happens for beer. From here, we'll move into our lauter tun. This lauter tun is actually where we end up separating that sweet liquid from all the grain. You don't get grain in your beer glass, but this is where that process starts. So all we're doing is just taking all that liquid, getting it off the grains and into our kettles. We end up rinsing all the sugar with hot water to get as much sugar as possible or as required for the beer, different strengths, alcohol, sugar contents, etc. From there, we'll go into one of our 2 kettles, and this is where we'll start adding hops. So as we bring to a boil, if you add hops at the beginning of your boil, you're going to get more bitterness. As you start adding it later and later, you get more aromatic. So you want a really big bitter IPA, you're going to start adding it at the front. If you don't want anything too bitter and just aromatics, you're going to keep adding it later and later and later. This is, hops act as a natural preservative. They're keeping the beer stable. They're going to give you that flavor, the aroma, the bitterness, the things you need to create that balance in beer. We'll boil for 60 minutes, up to an hour and a half, sometimes more depending on the beer. And this is just going to stabilize it, make sure that the beer is ready to package. Lots of really good things happen in this process, but I'll skip by it. From there, after we do that, we're going to actually send all that now hot boiling green wort into our whirlpool. So this is actually going to settle out any of that hops, the proteins, all the things that formed beforehand. We're going to try and remove that from the beer. So we call this trub-bile, T-R-U-B, but think of it like your tea leaves in the kettle. So if you put tea in your coffee or your mug, you're going to actually end up, if you stir the spoon, you'll see all the tea leaves circle in the center. This is what we do here. So what we're actually doing is just removing all of that, green hop material, proteins, if any excess barley or something got through, it'll actually stay in there before we send it off to fermentation. After we get it off there, we're actually going from boiling right down to 20 degrees for most ales, and then for our lagers down as low as 10 degrees. So we send it through a heat exchanger. So we're actually sending hot wort through one side, we're sending cold water back through the other. This fills up our hot liquor tank. Liquor just means brewing water. And then we're getting actual cool or fermentable wort out the other side. And this is going into our fermentation vessels. This is where we're going to add yeast, and yeast is actually what's making it's what makes wort into beer. I mean, as brewers, we're just kind of glorified janitors, making sure that yeast have a really happy place to live, and we're just providing them food. And then the yeast is going to take the sugar from the wort, and then it's going to create alcohol and CO2. And that's really what that's doing. So it's just metabolizing all that sugar. It's taking in oxygen that we add, and then it's creating the CO2 and alcohol. So there's already natural carbonation in beer itself during that fermentation process. So that'll take 3 to 5 days for ales, and then 7 to 14 for our lagers, just for the fermentation process to happen. After that, we'll send it on to conditioning if needed. If we were to have, say, like our hazy IPA, you'll notice that there's a lot of hop aroma. As I said, the later and later you add hops into your beer, you're going to get more aroma. So from this, we actually add dry hopping. So we're actually adding hops nearing the end of fermentation so that we can get the most aromatics possible out of our hops, which you will get those citrus flavors, those tropical gooseberry, lychee, mango, papaya notes from the hops themselves just by adding them later in the process. Whereas if you add them all at the beginning, you're just gonna get straight bitterness. So as in chronological order, we'll go down to the cellaring tank room, which I think is just really neat. And this is our lagering room. So this is where we actually store and age all of our lagers for an extended period of time before we go to package. This just gives us the extra little bit of room so we can actually do our lagers properly and age them well. All right, so this is our bright beer room. So this is the final stage before packaging. So this is where after the beer has been filtered or transferred, it's been racked and just ready to get a little extra carbonation before we send it off to packaging. And this is our packaging hall right here. So we mainly focus on cans and kegs. Right now we're in the middle of an expansion, putting some new equipment in. So here we are getting where we get all of our cans and shrink wraps and labels done. Here we are in our cold room storage. So this is where all our packaged good kind of sits before it goes out into the world. You can see that we have our Pilsner all ready to ship out. Then a bunch of our other brands, Caribou, we got the Conductors, we got our double IPA, some hazy IPA, all getting ready to go out for thirsty customers.
I am going to go ahead and prepare or show you how to plate your next dish, which is the crispy za'atar cauliflower. I just wanted to mention before I pull them out of the oven, we have a few elements that I just wanted you to make sure you have ready. So we have our fresh mint, our fresh pomegranate seeds, your green goddess dressing, feta, and a couple lemon wedges. So just make sure you have those set. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull the cauliflower out of the oven. So I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so here's our cauliflower. One thing I did want to mention is this dish in particular, it's really important that you leave it in the oven for the right amount of time. Everyone's oven is a little bit different. So just make sure that when you pull it out, it really is nice and hot and crispy. Because it is fried, and we've done that, of course, in advance for you. It may be the case that some ovens take a little bit longer to make it hot and fresh, and especially crispy. So just make sure you can always pause and make sure that you just leave it in the oven for the right amount of time. So this is an amazing dish. I'm just gonna go ahead and get started here. First thing to do is just start plating out your cauliflower. I like to plate it family style, to be honest with you, but you can do it into individual dishes or bowls as well. If you decide to do that, that's totally cool. So we're just gonna get all the cauliflower kind of mounded up in the center of your plate. Just be careful, it is really nice and hot and crispy. So you just want to be careful. I love this dish. It reminds me and takes me back to when I was actually living in the Middle East. I was living in Israel at the time, and in a lot of the major cities, they obviously have a bunch of street food. After a night of drinking, this was reminded me of one of the great snacks that I used to get, which was this crispy cauliflower. We've kind of modernized it, so we've taken that and done a little trendy green goddess dressing, and then paired it with some salty and tangy, complementary flavors. So I have the cauliflower mounded up in the center. Next thing you want to do is take your green goddess dressing. The green goddess is something that, it has that creaminess to it, so it's gonna be nice and flavorful. We make it with a whole bunch of different herbs, mint and dill and scallions and cilantro. It's really gonna cut through and complement the fried cauliflower. So you just wanna go ahead and just drizzle it all over the top of the cauliflower. Just making sure you get into all the little nooks and crannies here. You can get fancy, kind of go around the plate a little bit and just make it look really pretty. I love this dressing. It goes well with vegetables, it goes well with meat and chicken. It's just a great versatile dressing. Next thing we have is our feta cheese. So the feta, you know, just a little complimentary salty bite will help season and finish off the cauliflower. Just add a little bit of creaminess to it. This is an aged feta, so it's gonna have a really great depth of flavor. You can just go ahead and sprinkle it all over the top of the cauliflower. Next move is your pomegranate seeds. So you just kind of want to shake it out. Just make sure you spread it out. This also looks really pretty. So here is the pomegranate seeds. They add a really nice acidic kind of tang to the dish. Then lastly, we have your fresh mint here. It's just going to complement the green goddess dressing, add a really bright, kind of refreshing finish to the cauliflower. Just kind of have fun, sprinkle it all over. There we go. And then lastly, we have the fresh lemon. It's just going to add that little bit of zest, little bit of tang. So I'm gonna go and I'm actually just gonna take it and squeeze it right over the top. Obviously, this is a dish that you wanna eat right away. It's not one that'll sit around too long, so just go ahead, dive in. I like to use my hands, but you can use a fork as well. And then we're just gonna take the last lemon and just make it look pretty right there in the corner. So we paired this with the Hazy Session IPA. I think it is a great pairing because you do have that sort of soft, subtle fruit element in the beer. We've done it with the crispy cauliflower, which, you know, any fried food really goes great with beer. This one in particular, the Hazy Session is just gonna kind of cut through and refresh your palate when you're eating the fried cauliflower. The Green Goddess has a little bit of those herbal notes that you're gonna find in the IPA as well. And I love it. I think it's fun and fantastic. So that is that dish. Just a reminder, if you can, while we're talking about the Hazy Session IPA with Andrew, if you can just go ahead and pop your Brazilian flatbread, the FRALDINHA, in the oven while we're talking about it, just so it can get nice and hot and crispy, and get the cheese nice and ooey gooey. And we'll see you back there in a sec. I'm gonna pass you off to Andrew. Thank you so much.
And on to beer number 3. This is our Session Hazy IPA. So what makes it Session? It's just lower in alcohol, a little lighter on the bitterness, just meant to be a beer you can drink a lot of. Some of these IPAs get really high in alcohol, where again, really flavorful, really delicious, but again, these are more for having with a meal or just kind of having a little session drinking your beer. In fact, all beers are sessionable if you really want to. Again, pour, don't be afraid of getting head on your beer. Foam is beer, beer is foam. It's okay. And this one, as we talked about in the brewery tour with the dry hopping, this one has a lot of dry hops, even for a light beer. Again, which is what's contributing a lot to the haze, also oats. Just kind of giving a little bit more of that body. Again, all it's doing is just kind of making that bitterness a little more easy to bear, but just making it softer, fruitier. Some people have used the word pillowy, but again, just to make the mouth feel a lot nicer along to just boost the aroma hops. You're gonna get all that just gooseberry, lychee, mango, papaya, little bits of honey on the nose. Again, we're using Vic Secret hops and Mosaic, so extremely tropical. It's just meant to just kind of be in your face, but yet still enjoyable fruits. Everyone likes a little bit of citrus. Again, it's really nice in beer. Again, you can take a sip. Again, not super bitter, but you're gonna get a lot of that hop flavor. You're gonna get those tropical notes. Again, balanced by a little bit of sweetness. You know, the body's there. There's still a little bit of assertive bitterness. Again, it's not an IPA unless you have a little bit to kind of balance everything else out. But again, just a really easy drinking, fruit-forward, tropical, hazy IPA. It's really nice to be a part of this Toronto craft beer community. You know, us as Junction are really fortunate to be here in the Junction where, you know, just across the street we have Shacklands, we have Reinhard. Down the road there's Indie Ale House. You know, I think every brewery brings all these amazing things to the table, and they all have their own unique place for people to go and visit and try something new, pair it with food, go, you know, try it at a different restaurant. You know, it builds so much community that I don't see that in any other industry. It's kind of why I love being a part of the craft beer community and kind of being this cheerleader for all these other breweries that are doing amazing things. You know, just like us, I feel like we fit into this world of where we do have some really great lagers. You've seen it in our aging tanks. You know, the horizontal lager tanks that we have downstairs. Yeah, we can still make these really great IPAs. You know, it's so nice to have all these different breweries bringing something new to the table that we can all kind of vibe and riff off of to make something better and, you know, bring into, whether it's your home or to a restaurant. That, you know, you don't see this in other communities. So thanks, Toben, for having us and being a part of this experience. And back over to you, Toben.
Okay, let's go ahead and grab that flatbread from the oven. It should be nice and hot. So this is a really fun one. This is kind of a nouveau, international take on a pizza, so to speak. We've paired it with a really herbaceous chimichurri sauce, which I think the herbal notes in the beer will pair really well with. We've topped it with our house-cured Rizola, which is a really great cut of beef that we've taken and salt cured with a bunch of spices. It's gonna be amazing. So you're just gonna take the pizza itself, just carefully kind of slide it onto a cutting board, unless you want to cut on your plate, but I suggest a cutting board. And you're just gonna take it and kind of cut it into like 3 or 4 comfortable pieces that you can. I think this is a perfect food to eat with your hands, which is always fun. And so you're just gonna take it and plate it on this beautiful board that we have here. And then we're gonna take the other piece, same thing, just cut it into 3 pieces. I love this pizza. I think the salty notes work so well with the Pilsner beer. And in general, I'm sure Andrew will get into more of it, but you know, we found that there was a lot of tones of like crusty bread with the beer. So I think the rendition of that amazing baked flatbread style pizza works so well. And that's why we did it. So you're gonna get a little bit of spiciness from the chimichurri and the chili oil that we add, some acid from the tomatoes, and some sweetness. You're gonna get the saltiness from the cheese, the crusty bread notes from, of course, the crust of the pizza. And then lastly, we've just given you guys some more chimichurri. There is some on the pizza initially when we bake it, alongside of the tomato sauce, but we gave you a little bit more just so you could get that fresh sensation from the chimichurri itself. So just grab a spoon and then take the chimichurri and it is strong, so just kind of lightly dot it over the top of the pizza, making sure to kind of hit a bunch so that you can get a little bit in a bunch of the bites. And there you have it. There's the plating of the pizza. So just wanted to hit on the desserts. Of course, you're not consuming the actual beer but you actually are, because we've gone ahead and made this amazing Black Forest chocolate stout cake. It's in a little cute mason jar. I'm just gonna bring it out here. It's in this really, really cute mason jar. I'll move this to the side. And it has this rich cake that has a bunch of the stout actually in it. Molasses flavors, rich coffee tones that we found from the beer that will really, you know, get your palate going at the end. And I think chocolate and cherries is such a great pairing too, so we wanted to do something that brings that out. What better than a Black Forest cake? It has the creamy notes, those rich creamy notes, of course, from both the pastry cream and from the whipped cream on top, the chocolate. I think it's the perfect finish to what has been an amazing craft kind of beer experience.
And for the final beer this evening, our craft Pilsner. So this is a German-style Pilsner. Again, we visited the Czech Republic early in the dark lager. What's the difference between the German? Again, German-style Pilsner just has a little, in my opinion, there's a little more bitterness, a little drier, a little grassier on the hop aroma. This is by far my favorite beer style in the world. This is what I want to drink all day, every day. Again, don't be afraid to be aggressive with your pour. Beer is foam, foam is beer. Again, you'll see this nice golden Pilsner. Take a whiff. You're gonna get that nice grassy aroma, just the Saaz hops just kind of bellowing through the CO2. And again, you're gonna get all that Pilsner malt, just that breadiness. It's just that, you know, almost like a baguette in a glass. It's just, to me, this is the most perfectly balanced beer. There's literally nothing better than this on any weather, any time of day. This is the beer you want to drink all the time. Again, I think it's some beers you can think a lot of and overthink. The Pilsner is just one of those beers you don't need to overthink it. It just needs to be good. You can just have, you know, something that on paper, it has more bitterness than our Session IPA, yet it doesn't have that same expression. It's about being balanced. It's about, you know, this is perfectly balanced beer, in my opinion. So enjoy. You will also know that our stout, which is in the food, you know, it was the second beer that Junction ever made. If you do see it out and about, or you can come get it at a retail store. Again, we do infuse it with nitro. So with us, again, you just need to shake it. Nitrogen's an inert gas, so it will flash off, but if you shake it, it actually goes right back into solution. So when you shake it and pour fast into the glass, it'll actually give you that cascading effect. Again, this beer just works perfect for food, especially a Black Forest cake, just those chocolate notes. Everything that goes into the cake is in that beer. So again, if you get the chance, it's a great pairing. It's really great in the food. So I've been talking a big game about foam, but I just wanted to actually explain why we pour beer into glass with head on it in another way. Since we're doing all this pairings with food, it's really important to kind of know what's going in your stomach and why you shouldn't just open the can and drink out of it, for many reasons. A lot of times when you drink out of a can, people say, oh, it tastes metallic. Well, again, when you put your nose to it, what are you gonna smell? The top of the can. So it's not very good. Again, everything you get out of beer is generally from aroma. You know, 95% of what you taste is coming from your nose. So that's one reason. Another reason is that, well, some people complain that every now and then you kind of get an upset stomach or you're bloated every time you drink beer and eat food. Well, there's a reason. Again, I can kind of demonstrate this with a few glasses and some napkins. When you pour one beer with a lot of foam, this may seem excessive, but there's a reason behind it. Again, it's the same beer. You'll see after a while, this is gonna start to settle out. Beer is foam, foam is beer. Pour this one very, very slowly and try and get very, very little head on it. But again, there's, you know, the old school drinker that sometimes wants that beer poured all the way to the top with nothing in it. What we're not doing, again, we're not getting any head on it. You're not going to get any aroma. It's going to look kind of lifeless. It's kind of bland. But we're not releasing any of the CO2 to give it aroma. So again, bear with me while I pour this very slowly, doing my best with these very effervescent carbonated beers. There's a reason behind this.
There we go. It's coming.
So for the purposes, that's what we have. There's very little beer, doesn't look that good. You're gonna see, you'll never see a beer commercial do this. It's always gonna kind of be this, the foam's going over, all that good stuff. But what you're gonna see over time is that it just starts to settle out. So all that beer is slowly rising. That's what it's becoming. Again, we can wait a little longer for the demonstration.
Is there it looks like there's even a little bit of a color difference. Is that the case or no?
No, that's
just
probably
my eye.
just perception.
Okay.
Again, when you look at, and again, even with the foam on it, you're just gonna see that white, the way the light reflects off the beer.
Okay.
And again, so you have two different beers. Again, you're slowly seeing, we're almost at the same here. Same amount of beers in each can. What's gonna happen if I take these napkins and roll it into the beer that was poured properly? You know, you're having your beer, you're having a good time, you're gonna have some chicken wings. Okay, well you're putting that back into your belly. But if you put this in here, not a whole lot happens. Again, you had your nice beer with all your chicken wings and you're starting to feel a little bloated. Well, again, you're putting that into your stomach. Look what's happening. Suddenly this is starting to foam over. I'm not aggravating it, I'm doing the exact same thing. So what's happening is that food's reacting in your stomach, releasing all that carbonic acid that's coming out of the CO2, and it's actually happening in your stomach. So when you get bloated, you get gas, a lot of it's becoming because you either drank it straight from the can or you didn't pour it properly. Again, these are kind of things that can either help you enjoy your meal, your food pairing a little better, have a few more beers, and eat more food. Again, it's such a different experience, and that's actually happening in your stomach when you drink and eat. So there's a reason why we actually take so much pride in proper glassware, proper cleaning, and actually just kind of, you know, it's not a hoax. This is why we actually try and educate on proper beer pouring and actually get the most out of the beer, the most out of food. And again, when you're in a restaurant setting, you know, it's so much different of how you actually, you know, if you think of servers, what are they going to do? Sell one beer and a bit of food, or they can have an appetizer? Now you can have two beers. So it all adds up. You know, these are things that are going to actually increase the enjoyment of your outing, or sitting at home having a little more food and enjoying it, and not feel like the beer is the reason that you're not having more or not enjoying anything.
Not getting super full for the wrong reasons.
For the wrong reasons. So you can actually increase your appetite,
right,
and think about it that way.
That's really cool. All right, well, all this talk about beer, I think I would actually love to pour myself a beer. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that properly. Lots of head on it. Am I doing this right?
You're doing this right. There's no wrong way.
All right. Just go ahead and let that settle. But I'll give you a big cheers. It was really a pleasure doing this with you, Andrew. And it's been a great time having myself and Andrew here talking about food, talking about the beer, hopefully teaching you guys a little bit about, of course, different ways to pair beer with food, and you know, maybe working on your presentation skills a little bit, and certainly learning about how to properly pour beer and consume beer, and you know, just learn all the different ways to experience it. So yeah, turn it over to you, Andrew, if you want to say a little goodbye. And yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us. I don't have anything else to say than cheers.
Cheers.